Today we're going to talk about Indigenous issues, Indigenous affairs, and in particular as they relate to the criminal justice system. You know, in Canada, just under 2.9% of the population is Aboriginal, yet for some strange reason, 29% of our penitentiaries have Aboriginal people in them. And a lot of these, the people that are in these institutions are there for all the wrong reasons. The irony, of course, is over decades we put Aboriginal people in residential schools where they were horribly abused by Catholic priests. I can say that I'm Catholic, religious but not holy. Thank you very much, but I'm not sort of practicing anymore because, you know, I have my faith, but the church, it's almost like cult-like, and this comes out in the way that they treated the sexually abused children so you've got generations of them getting over this abuse, which is why they end up in the criminal justice system and in other areas. But 29% of our population, of our Aboriginal population, 29% of those in jail are Aboriginal. So we go to Adam CAPAY. It comes out that in a prison in Thunder Bay run by the Ontario Correctional Service, this man, who was 19 years old when he was put in solitary confinement for 4 years. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that is called torture. Okay, don't take my word for it. That is torture as designated by the United Nations and the International Convention on Torture, of which we are a signatory to. Our country is a signatory to that. And what that means is we are obligated to enforce that treaty, both here and in other areas that affect us. This is why last year, a Syrian officer, a colonel who had tortured Mahar Arar back in 2003 in Syria, everybody knows that case, was charged in absentia by the RCMP for torture. Now, the federal police are obligated to enforce that treaty, which is why they charge him. I'm making the case that the Minister of Corrections, David Oriazetti in Ontario, and the superintendent of the Thunder Bay prison should both be arrested and charged with torture. I don't know why that hasn't happened. Now you get the mamby-pamby malingerings in the Ontario legislature of Oriazetti, who basically said, well, you know, we got him out of the cell, we got him some running water, we got him some toothpaste, we got him out of the 24 hours of light a day, and now we've put him in a cell with his own bed, and we're only going to keep them in solitary confinement for 15 days. Well, 15 days is the torture date under the convention. So basically, you've got this guy who's dumber than a bag of hammers as our corrections minister, who doesn't even get what's going on in his own correction facility. Now, a year ago, just not quite a year ago, the minister was our local MPP, Yasser Naqvi. Yasser Naqvi was in that prison and actually had contact with this guy when he was walking by his cell. The guy, CAPAY, apparently yelled out at him. This was mentioned by the president of the local OPSU union. And now apparently Mr. Naqvi says he doesn't remember that. Yeah. But I'm thinking, you know, if I'm the minister and I come across that, the first thing I'm going to do is say, whoa, stop. Let's stop the visit. Let's stop at the cell. What's going on here? Yes. 4 years? Are you kidding me? And I get all my officials in. See, the point is this: somebody made a decision to do that to that man. Now, he's in there for 4 years. Somebody wanted to cause harm to him. That's a criminal charge. In that institution, the top dog is the superintendent, and in that system, the top dog is Oriazetti. Charge them both. That's what I say. What do you say, Darryl?
No, I think it's outrageous. I mean, it's like in the federal system with Ashley Smith, where it was going on repeatedly. The federal government, the left arm doesn't know what the right arm is doing. I mean, they're filing reports to headquarters. They have what are called SINTRIP reports, or security incident reports, that are filed daily at the Correctional Service of Canada with respect to incidents they're having with inmates. They're not supposed to be for the reading pleasure of the correctional staff. They're supposed to be reviewed, and the purpose is to assess and determine whether or not the institutions are dealing with this person appropriately, to find out what the problems are and attend and address them. I mean, Ashley Smith was causing problems in all sorts of institutions, and these reports would have been coming in daily. And CSE basically did nothing with them. And it was only when she eventually, killed herself through a ligature, and it became public knowledge that the Correctional Service of Canada then came out and said, well, we're going to do better. But there are other Ashley Smiths in correctional institutions. Those security incident reports that are filed from each institution should not be read by some clerk. They should be read by a person whose job it is to assess, evaluate, and report to the commissioner anything that seems to be out of the ordinary, and they should do follow-ups. I mean, I'm not surprised that this is happening, and this is probably not an isolated case. I mean, that's the problem.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Darryl, but would you not agree that the politicians, the minister, they take a rather cavalier approach to these things?
Yeah.
I mean, the minister, my understanding is he gets a report every 30 days about who's in solitary confinement. So they get these reports. Now, whether they read them or not,
Right.
I mean, some of these people, I don't even know if they, if they read or if they have coloring books or what, because, I mean, you don't know why this wouldn't go to the core of your system to shock you to the core when you find out that someone's been left in those conditions. So we do nothing, we take this cavalier approach, and my whole thing is, unless we start to hold people accountable for these decisions, the liberals of, I sort of live in the center, right? Mm-hmm. But I find it deeply offensive that, we talk about all of this social engineering stuff and the rights of these people and the rights of that people, and we want to help here and we want to help here. But when those same liberal officials are actually housing people that's under their control, and they're torturing them, and then they sidestep the issue and they don't talk about it. I
think it's outrageous. I also think it's outrageous that the politicians, even when you bring issues to their attention, completely ignore you. As somebody who's, I don't expect that I should be treated any differently than anybody else, because I'm a criminology professor, but I mean, my God, if I write an email to the Minister of Public Safety, I expect at least I'll get an acknowledgement when I work.
You get an acknowledgement?
I get nothing from Goodale's office. I've written emails to them about sexual harassment. I've written to Goodale's office about problems in the RCMP, including Paulson, with the DeGroote situation.
It's interesting you say that, because I found the same experience with the Minister of Corrections in Ontario. I called his office when this came out about CAPAY, and I was put in touch with his assistant for media issues. So I spoke to this fellow and I said, look, I'm calling about Adam CAPAY, and he said, who? And I said, you don't know who Adam CAPAY is? Well, what specifically are you referencing? I said, well, Adam CAPAY, the guy that's been tortured, and they play stupid. And then it's only when you push a bit, then they come back, and then we ask them a number of questions, and they don't answer your questions. They answer the questions they answer questions you didn't ask that have nothing to do with the CAPAY case. So this maybe speaks to a problem in government overall in terms of transparency.
I know.